Hello, everybody, and welcome to another fantastic edition of DialogBOX. I forgot what the intro I was going to do for this show. I tried to do a weird, dumb intro. It's the show only a mother could love. And I already used that one. I am your host, Laughingboy LP, and I am here with three very lovely guests. I'm having trouble counting today. Up to
two.
Specifically, up to three.
Two very lovely guests.
Well, there's three types of people in this world: people who can count and people who can't. So I've got three very lovely guests sitting here.
I lost count. Today. Which type am I?
Wait, can you repeat that? I feel like I missed one. This is part 2 of our previous episode talking about convention experiences. So it would be very weird if I had 3 completely different guests to talk about their experiences. Right now I have Secret Agent Jacob. Hello.
Hi.
I have the 8-bit drummer. Hello.
Yes.
Huh. Boggle. And I'm here with Yoshiller as well. Hello.
Hello.
I was about to say, did we lose you?
As long as he's recorded on his end, he's fine. It'll be okay.
Exactly. I
said hello. Sorry, my internet sucks. I said hello, humans. I don't know what else you want me to do. I'm sure.
I don't know what else you want. I said the humans thing. Right?
I said hello. God.
God damn it. So yes, we're continuing on from our previous episode where we talked about like our first convention experiences. We started talking a little bit about like what makes a good convention, and we're going to continue talking about our convention stories. And I think, Yoshiller, you had one that you were going to bring up, and then we had to call time, and I don't know if you remember that one specifically.
Yeah, I can assume, because we were talking last time about meeting Chugga and ProtonJon and Nintendo Capri Sun and pretty much everyone in the Runaway Guys group for the first time. Yeah. And that was kind of what my story was. I had the pleasure of being able to work with Chugga on stuff in the past, so he invited me to a Super Smash Bros. Tournament at PAX East 2015. He basically rented out a room, invited a bunch of YouTubers to the room, and said, all right, we're doing a bracket-style Super Smash Bros. Tournament at this time, at this date, be there. And I was like, all right, cool. So I edit stuff for different people, and I've worked with Chugga a couple of times, but I don't know. He's inviting me to this tournament with all these other guests? That's weird. I'm not ready for that. I don't deserve that. I'm not as big as these other channels here. And I went into the room, and yeah, it's kind of like going backstage at a Hollywood set, and it's like, oh man, there's Chris Evans, and there's Jamie Lee Curtis, and that's kind of what it's like. It was like, whoa, everyone's back here. Chugga's back here. ProtonJon's back here. Lukagen's back here. Attacking Toucans and Josh Jepson and JonTron and a bunch of other creators. And it was cool. And I took a bunch of pictures. And I got to say hi to some people. And then eventually, the tournament starts. And in a tournament bracket, typically, if you want to have an even bracket, the amount of players there has to be a power of 2. So it has to be 2 to the second power, 4 players, 2 to the third power, 8 players, so on and so forth. So we had 20 players, which means a few players had to play an additional round in this tournament before we could form a proper bracket. And the very first thing I hear after I'm, getting settled and everything is, all right, the tournament's starting, and the first match is Yoshiller versus ProtonJon. I'm like, oh, good. All right. And it's best 2 out of 3, and he wins the first game, and I'm like, well, my time here hanging out with all these big YouTubers is going to be super short-lived, but at least I had the honor of being invited to this tournament. And then I proceeded to win the following 2 games, and much to everyone's surprise, I eliminated ProtonJon in the first round of this tournament, which was cool, and I will hold that bragging right, but it was just an honor to play against ProtonJon in general, and it was very fun, and I had a good time, and that kind of made everyone remember my name, because they were all like, you beat ProtonJon in the first round of his own tournament. How do you feel? I was like, I feel great that I get to be in more than one Runaway Guys video. And then, here's where the fun comes in, is Lukagen came over and said hi and shook my hand and was like, hey, you know, good job beating my, I don't think they were married yet, so she probably said boyfriend at the time. You know, good job beating my boyfriend in this tournament. I'm your next opponent. I'm like, oh, cool. She goes, yeah, I've never played this game before, so if you if you beat my boyfriend who's like a pro at this, I don't think I'm gonna beat you. And I'm like, oh, I'm sorry. And she's like, yeah, so you want to just teach me how to play? I'm like, oh, sure. So when we recorded the video, I was just like, hey, so this is Super Smash Brothers. It's made by the guy who made Kirby. And she goes, oh, okay. How do I jump? I'm like, oh, it's easy. You just push this button and this button and this button. And then if I do this, I kill you and stuff like that. And that's just how I got to meet Chuggaaconroy. And then it kind of snowballed from there. I got to meet all the other people, Tom Fox and well, I guess I didn't meet her there, but I got to hang out with like Miss Anella and Dukin, Josh Efton. So that was my story, was I got invited to this tournament courtesy of Chuggaaconroy, and I made a name for myself out of a sheer lucky win. So that was when I met people. It's because I got lucky. And that's what I got. And I actually do have footage of that, so I can send you behind the scenes footage a little later if you want to use it in the video. If not, I mean, there's just Runaway Guys tournament footage too, so there's always that.
Oh no, I'll always use video footage. You can slap
I
that
like
in
video
there.
footage. That's what
Future
I'm talking
Andrew,
about.
do it. There's a part of me that's like, who wants to go next? But Jacob, we haven't heard, I think, any stories from you yet.
Today, no. You got my best story last time. Oh man.
That beautiful lunch.
It's a good lunch.
That and me getting food poisoning at every convention I go to.
You probably shouldn't do that.
Well, it's not
Yeah,
my
that's gonna really
fault.
ruin your whole experience if you keep doing that.
Okay, I got a story for you from a convention versus Expo, and it's just gonna make everyone mad. Well, not everyone, about half the people.
That literally was like the energy he was exuding. Like, I got a story for you. Oh, you want to hear a story? Knock your goddamn socks off.
So at Versus Expo 2019, which was in Chicago, I'd never been to Chicago before, and I had a few of my moderators rooming with me for that, and we all decided that we were going to try a Chicago deep dish pizza. And at the time of night that it was, we decided to get one. It was one of like the 3 places that are somewhat known for Chicago deep dish pizzas, but not like the Chicago deep dish place. And I'm like, yeah, whatever, it'll be fine. And so we got it. And to this day, I still am of the opinion that Chicago deep dish pizza is not pizza. It is a very goopy casserole.
I agree.
No, I agree.
And I do not understand the hype behind a Chicago deep dish pizza. I don't know why that's like the one thing I remember from Chicago, other than having food poisoning from medieval times, is the very underwhelming experience that was a Chicago deep dish pizza.
Was it your first?
It was. I had a terrible first time. They say it gets better though.
They were rough. That pizza
I'm
was a
convinced
rough
pizza
lover.
that sits in your
I'm
stomach
convinced-
gets better.
Yeah.
Deep dish pizza does not get better.
No.
I think, you know, maybe you did have the worst deep dish pizza of all time, maybe. But I don't know that there is such a thing as a good deep dish pizza. It's kind of like an oxymoron.
Man, y'all are really ostracizing like a lot of people.
I love Chicago. All right, I love everything else about Chicago. I love the trains and how there's like a store for everything on every single block. But deep dish pizza, I'm sorry that Chicago has to be associated with such a thing when there's so many better things it can be associated with.
I mean, it depends on how. I guess it depends on who makes it. I've had some pretty good ones. I can't really complain too much about it.
Well, to be fair, I'm very picky with what I eat, and I pretty much hate food in general. So Chicago people, you shouldn't take it personally. I really just hate most foods.
Oh no, I'm not taking it personally. I just find it funny.
Yeah, for sure. So if I hate most foods, then it only stands to reason that I really wouldn't like deep dish pizza.
We probably shouldn't take any food advice from Yoshiller just because of the fact that he literally hates food.
I hate. If I didn't have to eat, if I could live my life without having to eat, I'd probably be much better off. But I do have to eat.
This doesn't make sense for your whole thing. Like Yoshi.
Well, I am
eats.
so lanky.
Yeah.
Oh. Well, Yoshi eats, but does he ever really like keep the food in his stomach? It usually turns into an egg right afterward.
I mean,
no, there are some enemies that he eats and they just go away.
Yeah.
They become part of him.
Or he poops on command.
Oh, sorry, Yoshi. That was a good popping sound effect.
That is not the noise.
It's
a butt
literally
should
my
make.
brand now. I hate it. Actually, I really like it, but you know.
My favorite thing to do with pops is whenever I'll go to the bathroom or something, I turn my camera off and I mute my mic and I'll go to the bathroom. When I get back, I don't tell anybody I'm back, and I'll just, while the game's still going, I'll just and throw them off so hard. And then I get to see your emote go nuts in chat every time I do it, and it's my favorite thing.
One of my favorite things that we came up with together was the like it's like the little bit of feedback you get whenever you touch a hot mic to a input. So it's like like that.
Oh.
And now everybody spams BRRT whenever people do it now. And I freaking love that.
Mike goes Bert.
Be careful, that might become a thing here, and I'll just keep doing it because I have a problem.
No, as soon as you get something in my head, I won't stop. So.
You can't encourage me, or else I'll just keep going.
it's like a yawn. As soon as you yawn, I'm gonna start yawning too. Really, if you cry, I'm gonna cry too. I'm gonna just go. Actually, that sounded like a wet fart.
That's okay.
Can we talk about why there's a brand of antibacterial wipes that are named after a type of fart?
Which one?
Wet ones.
Because it's what you do after you have a wet one.
I gotta be honest with you, dude. When you said, "Can we take a minute to talk about?" I really thought you were going to say talk about wet farts, and I was like, "Wait, what is this podcast?"
And what do you want me to say? I mean,
I talked about
it
bathrooms
happens.
for 20 minutes.
Never trust one.
Yeah, exactly. Because then you're gonna have to
Never
need a
trust
wet
the fart.
one for your wet one.
Oh my god! Have y'all ever heard of poopery by any chance?
Yeah, of course.
I have.
Dude, that crap has some of the funniest like advertisement I think I've ever seen. Because it's like a super fancy lady, and she's like a poopery.
Oh yeah. Oh, Reese had a field day with that one.
Dude, those commercials are great.
We bought 2 squatty potties, and they're amazing.
I have no idea what that means.
So a squatty potty is it's basically a stool. Like somebody took a stool and reformatted it so that you put it underneath your toilet seat. And so
I know what they are now.
Okay.
Yeah. But whenever you said
thought
stool,
that they were
I'm like,
Look, I thought they were so stupid. They're not.
eh,
They're actually really helpful.
it's a stool for taking a stool, you see.
Yes. Or it doesn't go on the stool, but
So what were we talking about?
Well, I was busy talking about how I competed at a tournament with the Runaway guys, and then we started talking about Chicago deep dish pizza. Now it's your turn to tell a story that will help us get into a huge tangent that will be unrelated to the rest of the conversation.
So wait, which type of story though? Like a good,
Are we
good
already
one or a
on
bad
that?
one?
Are we
Good one.
already on the tangent, or
Maybe I don't know.
let's talk about some more good con experiences, and then we'll go into the weird shit.
Oh God, let me see here. Frick, and of course now I can't think of anything. I've had so many good experiences, man. They've kind of like, they haven't like melded together, but oh frick. Okay, so all right, first MagFest I go to, it's like a late night set. It's past midnight, and me and a bunch of my friends, Jules, Erica, we're all like Jack, we're all hanging out at the Super Soul Bros like late night set, and I'm on the side of the stage with Jules, and their drummer went somewhere for some reason, and they to this day I have no idea why he left. I know that the guy playing the bongos next to him probably drove him nuts because he wasn't playing bongos well, but it was kind of like a free set, so everybody was able to do whatever they wanted to, and Super Soul Bros were doing it, and they were like, well, we don't know where our drummer is. Does anybody up here play drums? And Jules turns to me and goes, this motherfucker right here, and points at me, and I'm like, oh Jesus. So I'm like, sure, yeah, why not? So I get up on stage, and they start playing Luigi's Raceway, but a like a jazzy version of it. So it's like, it has the stops at the beginning, and I completely missed the first stops, but then I just get into my groove and I just play. And I still to this day have no idea how I followed along to the live band. And then it was really funny because the lead singer, after we stopped Robbie, he's the pianist. He turns to me, looks at me, and is like, what in the world? And then he turns back to the crowd and goes, well, that was the first time he's ever heard that song, but I think he's doing pretty good. Can we, let's play a couple more? So we end up playing like 5 or 6 different songs in the set, and it was one of the most fun things. Like, everybody loved it. It was just a really, really fun time. And that is probably one of my favorite things from the first MagFest, other than, of course, meeting Erica. But that was a very good convention. Like, that first MagFest was just god tier for me.
This kind of reminds me of a story. Again, my first MagFest. And we were just I just decided to go with a friend to the Super Best Friends panel. I think they were still 2 best friends at that point. But anyway, and they were giving out free prizes for people that could answer trivia questions. But they still had prizes and they ran out of trivia questions. So they started asking like random stuff. And they were asking if somebody could if somebody knew the theme songs of something by heart. And I remember one of them was Mummies Alive. And so somebody sang the Mummies Alive song. Yeah, okay. I can't remember what the second song was, but nobody raised their hands. And I'm thinking to myself, I had just watched Monster Rancher a week before MagFest, because all of a sudden it was on Hulu. Like, I hadn't seen it in 10 years by that point, but all of a sudden it was on Hulu, so I just started watching a couple episodes, and I'm like, I forgot how much Monster Rancher wanted to be like Pokemon in the West, because they started doing raps incessantly. So all of a sudden, I think it's Wooly, one of them. It's either Wooly or Liam. They just go like, does anybody know the Monster Rancher theme song? And so I was the only person in the audience that was like, wait, I can do that. And so I I've never done anything like this before. I just don't really like to do it. And normally I would probably have just been like, I know it, but I'm not going to get up and tell anybody that I know it. And so I got up and I got to sing. And as I was starting to do the song, Wooly started singing along with it. So I got to do a little duet with Wooly to the Monster Rancher theme song.
Cool.
And then I won a cookie.
What kind of cookie are we talking here?
It was the I think it was the EL fudge, the sandwich ones, but it's the chocolate sandwich ones. So it's no, it wasn't the EL fudge. I'll look it up. I'll tell you the cookie. That's
a good cookie if it is.
Yeah. But it was one of those Keebler chocolate sandwich cookies.
Yeah, I got you.
Yeah.
Good.
I haven't eaten yet today, so thanks for that.
I think they're just no, it's not fudge stripes. Here, I'll just keep saying ones until.
All right, that's the podcast, guys.
Out.
Cookie flavors.
Chips Ahoy. No, that can't be it. I think they were just chocolate versions of fudge stripes.
If you wouldn't get a copyright strike, I think it'd be so funny right here if you were just playing commercials of different cookie brands while you're trying to figure out which one it is. It's all good.
I might be able to get away with it. I might. And then I will force Jacob to watch the Whoopsie Fudge Stripes commercial. Hashtag fully fudged.
Good.
Hashtag that defines my life. Thank you.
Just like your pants if you eat too many of these.
Ooh.
I mean, that was the night, or that was the day after the experience I had from it. My first MagFest was kind of the way that, you have the one movie with the really timid guy who goes to some kind of event and that opens him up and gets him out of his shell, and then he's just all over the place and goes a little too overboard. That was my experience at MagFest that weekend. And then I just went back to being my old timid self that following Monday. I was just yeah, okay, back to normal. But I tried my best to be present in that moment. And so I was like, yeah, fuck it, I'll sing the Monster Rancher theme song. Why not? I was transported to a faraway land into a world where monsters rule. I played the game like an ace, and now I'm in this place to say the monsters from the evil Moo, Brendan.
Oh my god.
See, you put the disc in, and it reads the disc, Brendan. right? Brendan. And it reads the disc. And then when it reads the disc, you get a monster. And that's how you play the game. But I don't have any CDs.
Is that right, Melissa?
Is that right, Melissa? Let me borrow your CDs, Brendan. Give me your CDs. I need them.
Dude, that crap is killing me, man. I freaking love Coach McGurk so much.
Why do you need all my CDs, Coach?
I just need them, Brendan. Just give them to me.
So I have a game.
I can't do his voice and it's killing me.
Your friend Jason gave it to me. They only interact one time in the entire show. Anyway, do we got any more fun stories?
I mean, always, but I didn't know if you wanted to move on to a different type of convention story or not.
If you've got stories, feel free to tell them. We're only 20 minutes in, and we're surprisingly on task.
Really now?
Yes.
All right. After talking about fudge cookies and home movies, and we're still
surprisingly
on
task.
All right. I mean, it's not technically, it didn't take place during a convention, but I have a story that involves convention folk that took place right before a convention.
Disqualified.
All right, then I'm not telling it. Sorry, guys. I guess you'll never hear that story on this podcast.
Nah, go for it.
If I get 7 likes on this video,
you'll unlock the extra pre-convention story DLC.
That's right.
Got it. All right, so I went over to Chugga's house back in 2017 to participate in what we called the 24-hour sleep versus, where Chuggaaconroy, Maryland, Cephazon, and myself did this 4-player race in Pokemon Sun and Moon, where we were split into teams, and we basically just had to complete the Pokedex as much as we could in 24 hours, but at the top of every hour, there was a challenge we had to fulfill, or we were like forced to trade, or forced to run around in circles, or forced to catch a specific type of Pokemon, yada yada yada, you get it. But the story isn't about that challenge, it's about what happened after the challenge, where after staying awake for 24 hours, we all passed out and woke up at random hours, and it got to a point where it was like 3, 4 in the morning, and we were all awake, and Chuggaaconroy was like, well, we can probably go to IHOP or something and grab food if you guys are hungry. And I was like, well, I do like pancakes, and I can always have pancakes, so we can go to IHOP. So he drove us over to an IHOP, which was right next to this nice hotel and everything, and the IHOP sign is all bright, and all the lights are on, and we go inside, and there's nobody there. Not a single person. All the lights are on, all the kitchen lights are on, all the dining lights are on, all the office lights are on, but there's nobody there. And, we're doing the old hello, and we're able to walk inside the building, no problem. And Chugga takes the liberty to go inside the kitchen and see if anyone's there. And he goes inside one of the office rooms in the back, and he's like, whoa, nobody's here, not a single person. And, we're all saying, but all the lights are on. And it's next to a hotel. Like, you'd think there'd be some sort of business here. If it wasn't on, why are the doors unlocked? Oh, whatever. All right, is there another IHOP near here? And Chugga's like, yeah, there's another one a couple miles away. So he drives us over to another IHOP, which is kind of near an outdoor shopping mall type of area, if I recall correctly. And we go inside, we don't go inside anymore. We get out of his car and we go inside the IHOP, and there's a lady at the front who normally would seat us, and she tells us, hi, sorry, nobody's here. And we say, what do you mean? You're here? And she said, yeah, but I'm here to tell you that nobody else is here. We're like, but all the lights are on. The door is unlocked. And we had to walk inside and stand here for you to tell us that nobody's here. Like, what's the point of being open 24 hours if nobody's here? And so we had to get back in the car. And we're like, all right, IHOP's out. We can wait till 6 a.m. and go to another store that opens. And that's basically what we did. We eventually just had Panera Bread. But that was our quick story of us waking up at a random hour, and all we wanted was some pancakes. But nobody actually is willing to make pancakes at 4 in the morning, so you just gotta wait till 6 a.m. and go to a different store, I guess. Sorry, IHOP.
Well, I mean, it's crazy that 2 separate IHOPs miles away were just kind of like, screw it.
Like, I'm more concerned, like, how are they not robbed? Like,
I was honestly half expecting you to be like, and then, Chugga went to the back into the kitchen
and made the
he
pancakes
came out
himself.
with pancakes.
That would have been fun,
so.
but yeah, it's fine. So we were okay. It was just a quick story that involved folks that I had met at conventions. So that was nice. And then we, went on our happy jolly way, and we went home, and then we saw each other at a convention just like a couple weeks later.
Y'all want to get IHOP?
Since then, we have not had IHOP. I'll get IHOP with you guys. I like pancakes.
That is if you can actually get the IHOP.
That's true.
right.
What if we go there and once again there's just a lady at the front and she's like, sorry. Nobody's here right now.
Oh, come on. It's 9 p.m.
Come on, man. So, that's good.
I need my pancakes. Or the steak tips. Gotta get them steak tips.
Dude, that's the best thing that IHOP has is the steak tips. Like I never get anything other than that.
Yeah.
I've never had them.
Yeah, it's my girlfriend's go-to.
They're so good.
All right, when the world opens up, we can go to conventions again.
Amen.
IHOP on me, and we'll get steak tips or something.
Hell yeah.
I've never been to an IHOP.
That's okay. It's just a pancake house.
Yeah,
That happens to have steak tips.
just like with all of my shows, you're not missing anything.
It's just like if you want pancakes at any hour of the day, that's where you go.
Yeah.
It's pretty good. But, it's also like a chain restaurant, so it's not going to be the world's best pancakes, probably.
Look, all I'm going to tell you...
Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, if you have a choice between... If there are two restaurants sitting right next to each other, one of them's IHOP, the other one's Cracker Barrel. You go to Cracker Barrel.
You go to Cracker Barrel.
You go to
God,
Cracker Barrel.
that's not even a comparison.
No, it's not.
Oh my God. Now, if anybody watching this likes IHOP, you are more than welcome to like whatever it is that you would like. But dude, comparatively, IHOP versus Cracker Barrel, oh my God, dude.
All I can really tell you is like their use of butter is so spot on. I never thought to butter the pan before you put the pancake mix on, and I do that now in my own home. It completely elevates the pancake. It gives it that little nice crunch on the shell. It's
absolutely.
So good. It is so good. But I will eat IHOP if it is 2 a.m. and if there are people inside of the IHOP.
Yeah. I mean, that's the thing is like IHOP's there for those who are up way later than, way later than I guess most of the population.
The normies.
Because like there are people who like, they, people that work late and stuff like that. They have
yeah.
like third shift or whatever. Like that's not me. I don't like leaving my house after midnight, man. I'm just not that type of person.
I've done it. I mean, it's funny that if Yoshiller hadn't said it wasn't a con story, I would have believed it as a con story.
That's why I felt comfortable telling it. It may as well have been a con story.
Do we want to talk about more good or do we want to move on to the weird stuff?
Let's go to weird.
Let's go to the weird
Let's
stuff.
go to weird stuff. That's a good transition after that IHOP story. So
yeah,
do some weird stuff.
Yeah, could have gone to Denny's. Nobody wants to go to Denny's.
Yeah, I never
Denny's is always
voluntarily
there
go to
for
Denny's.
you. You'd be nice
That's true.
to Denny's.
Yeah, look, I don't hate Denny's, but I never voluntarily go to Denny's.
There
I will
is
voluntarily go to IHOP.
There is a Denny's that is right off of the I-95 in Florida.
And
it's the one like I know. So the I'm talking about the Jacksonville exit to their airport, and it is like that Denny's has always been there for me, and I appreciate them very much because like I'll get off a plane coming back from like Canada or a convention or something in Jacksonville, and then I have to drive like a couple hours to my house up in South Carolina, and if it's like 11 o'clock, I'm just like, man, I'm freaking starving after that flight. I'll be like, you know what? Frick it. Let's get some late night Denny's. It'll make me, it'll give me what I need to be able to get home.
Yeah, I need a grand sandwich.
Dude. Oh God.
I'm already
dang it.
writing down in dialogue in my notes to just do a Pancake Place ranking episode.
I
So,
mean, that would go off very well.
all right. Because there's like 5 places, and I feel like we could just do that in this episode, but that's not appropriate. But we could. And I'm taking everything in my soul to not just go that direction. Okay, so weird stuff. I wouldn't necessarily call this a weird story, but it's close. I have a very weird relationship with Gex.
The game?
Yes.
Okay.
I mean, but don't we all? Really?
I've never played it, so I wouldn't know.
Don't.
Well, I know that, but
So, a long time ago, back when I streamed more regularly, I decided to raid Josh Jepson. And the game that we were playing at the time was Gex 3. Not that that's really that important, but it was a Gex game. And my friend at the time was just like, we should just make our raid. Well, we're still friends. Sorry, that sounded weird. So my friend at that moment said we should make our raid quote hashtag bring back X. And so we did, and I made bring back X the hashtag for that raid. Josh looks at that hashtag and he was just like, Gex? That game sucks, doesn't it? And so there's another thing that my friend and I like to do where we were like, what if we just made shit up about people and just said it enough where it becomes true? And it wouldn't be harmful. It wouldn't be like, oh, this person's a bad person or, stuff like that. The joke was the idea that like we would say that Robert Downey Jr. is like a math genius, even though like there's nothing that would lead anybody to believe this. But if we said it and told it to enough people with confidence, that all of a sudden it like might get to him and he might find out that people think that he's a math genius and then he has to say something about it. And we just thought that would be the stupidest thing in the world, but it would be really funny. So what we did this time was we were like, wait, #1 Gex fan Josh Jepson hates Gex? That doesn't make any sense. I don't know why the biggest Gex fan in the world, Josh Jepson, would hate the game, his most favorite game, which is Gex. And so we kept going with that for a little bit. And so I would kind of like make jokes about it every now and then when we would talk to each other and like be in together. Eventually, we did finally stream Gex together because it had gotten to the point where he knew what was up and he was just kind of like, all right, I'll stream Gex with you. So I played the PS1 version, he played the N64 version, which was kind of fun because we could see the difference between the two.
that would get you banned in my chat so fast. Like if somebody came in and was like, oh, this guy, like the 8-bit drummer really likes this. And if I didn't like it, I'd be like, stop.
If it ever got to that point, we wouldn't do it. But
Oh yeah, no.
Yeah, we were having what we believed was good fun. So PAX East happens, 2017. That was the year that Steven did his, he did a fan meetup. It was a big fan meetup with TRG, and everyone was outside near all these food trucks. Well, I was also there because I wanted to get to the food trucks. I actually was not there for the fan meetup, and I didn't realize that was where everyone was going to meet up.
Mm-hmm.
So I order my food, and I'm just kind of standing around, and the fan meetup is large enough where I can't like stand around at the fan meetup and not wait for my food at the same time. And I didn't really realize who was around me. And all of a sudden, I kind of glance over and I see Josh, who's standing around with all the other fans, and he stares like daggers at me. And I was kind of like, what? And he literally just like finger points at me and calls me over. So I walk over and he's talking with another fan. And he just turns to me and he goes, so I'm just minding my own business, and this person comes up to me and he asks, when are you going to be streaming Gex? And I turn around and I see you. So I just want to know if you had anything to do about this. And I was like, no, I'm just here for the waffles, dude. Like, I actually had nothing to do with anybody asking if you want to stream kegs. I really don't mean to do any of that out of like for any negative reason. And it's not like we didn't know each other at the time, so we were just kind of having fun. But yeah.
Oh, of course. I got a doozy of a story.
Oh,
and I don't care if the guy knows that I'm telling the story. I really don't care. I wish him all the best, but I don't care. So while I was at TwitchCon one year, I can't remember what year it was, and yeah, it was maybe the third or fourth TwitchCon that I went to, maybe the third. I can't remember. I was chilling. I had a meet and greet, and the dude came up at the meet and greet. It was super cool, perfectly fine. And we were worried because of the fact that we thought that he wasn't going to be. He was super cool. Later on, he ended up buying like a perler or something for me. I can't remember exactly what perler it was. I think it was a Vaporeon perler. Very, very kind of him, which I appreciate very much. And then another caster comes over, and I start talking with her because I'm just being friendly. I'd never met her before, and we ended up talking. While we were talking, the dude takes out his phone and shows off a donation that he made in my cast to the person that was standing there, to the caster, because he apparently had supported the caster as well, which once again I very much appreciate. But it was a very strange thing to have somebody be like, look at what I gave to him, to another caster in IRL, like in real life. It was very awkward, if I could say so. And once again, I will preface this once more, and I won't say it again. I do not wish any ill will on this person at all. I do not wish any problems towards them or anything. It was just a very strange situation. And I very much appreciate the support. The support was more so for a charity stream, which I very much appreciate as well. But I am going to talk crap because why not? Because it's funny. The next day, me and Erica are going to a dinner for me and her. After about 2 days worth of convention time, we're kind of tired. And we're just like, yo, I really want to go. I don't even think that me and Erica, we may have been married. I don't know. Maybe. No. We were still fiancés at the time. So we go to a dinner, and Dell was with us, and Dell's super cool. He was like, yo, y'all go get a dinner. Like we're at a mall. He's like, yo, you guys remember malls, go get a dinner, and I'll meet up with y'all afterwards. I'm going to go and get me, cause he wanted like a hamburger or something, but we wanted to go to Chinese. No. I'm sorry. Backwards. He wanted Chinese. We wanted the hamburger. So, while we're at this dinner, me and my fiance, the same guy messages me over Discord and is like, hey, where are you at? And I'm like, I'm at a dinner with my fiance, dude. And this was back whenever I talked to a lot of people on Discord and stuff. I've kind of cut back on that just, for personal reasons. And they were like, yo, can I join you? And I'm like, no, I'm having a private dinner with my wife. And they're like, oh, don't worry, I'm already on my way over. And I'm like, what the hell do you mean you're already on your way over? He goes, I'm going to a mall that you said that you were going to while you were talking to somebody else. And I'm like, what? So I'm sitting there and I'm like, do not show up at this restaurant. To the guy, I was like, do not show up at this restaurant. That is exceedingly and I basically told him like, this is very, very, it's very weird moment. Like it was like very, very upsetting. And he was like, all right. He ended up going to the wrong mall. He still went to the mall and was looking, but he went to the wrong one. And once again, I do not wish any ill will on this person. And I'm not going to say any names, but it's just like, dude, read the room, that is probably the weirdest interaction I've ever had with a fan, period. And I've had some weird interactions with people. But that one right there takes the cake for both me and Erica, I believe. I think that's probably the weirdest one for both of us. I can't really speak for her, but yeah, that is the strangest interaction I've ever had with a fan is they invited themselves to a private dinner with me and my fiance.
I mean, yeah, being a third wheel in general is already weird, but the fact that this is just like some random fan is all the more awkward. I do agree.
And once again, I will say it again, because I do not want, I'm not trying to hurt anybody's feelings or anything like that. I don't wish him any ill will, but man, that was strange.
Well, and it's kind of a weird topic to have, and I don't intend to like necessarily have like convention stories, and I do have like one good one I might get to later. That's very similar. It's a tough story to tell because you don't necessarily want to.
Yeah. You don't want to crap on somebody.
Exactly.
You're not saying it to badmouth someone. You're saying it just to tell your perspective of a rather humorous situation.
Exactly. Yeah. And that's why I kept saying like, I don't really care anymore. That was like years ago. I don't give a frick. But like, God, it was such a strange moment in my life. Like that was one of those moments that was like, this has never happened to me before because I've never been an entertainer before, it was that type of impact that it had. I was just like, this is weird. And this is actually like not precisely this moment, but that's actually one of the reasons why I've become a little bit more private whenever it comes down to online. Yeah. And protected because like, I just, I don't want people getting into my business. So I give people 3 hours of awesome freaking energy. I give 120% on my casts 4 days a week. But after that, I just want to hang out with my wife like and friends. Like that's it. That's all I want to do. And the community's been super cool with that too. Like I told them on cast, I'm like, hey, I'm not going to be in voice chat and Discord. I understand if that disappoints y'all, but I have my own life that I'm living too. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and I think the thing is like, I feel like these are stories that kind of need to be said, because there's a part of me that feels like there are people that don't necessarily mean to cross boundaries that they're not aware that they're crossing, but having these stories out there kind of say like, hey, look, like we do have things that we want to do on our own time, and we're not always, entertaining. We're not always on. And we need our off time. And I feel like if more people kind of knew that, then they would try to be a little bit more respectful.
And what's funny is that doesn't need to be said. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's like, why do we even have to say that? Why do we even have to say like, yo, I want to take time off. Yo, I want to not interact with people. That shouldn't be an upsetting thing to people, but to some people it is. And those people, I'll be honest, are not worth keeping around because it's like and now I don't say that people need to care about the people that they're watching. They don't have to care. That's the thing. Like it's not like, yo, I expect the people who watch me to care about what I'm doing outside of my life. But if people do, that's cool. It's whatever. But as long as they're not invasive, as long as they're not in like, I know this is a really weird topic to come on right after that story, but like the main thing is like, hey, we're allowed to do whatever we want to do outside of casting, and I've actually brought that into my cast as well. It's like, yo, I'm playing whatever music I want, and people have been super cool with that. And like, I take suggestions from everybody, and it's free and whatnot, but it's like, hey, I'm gonna do what I want to do. And some people don't like that. It's weird. It's really weird. I don't get it. But those people are not the ones that need to stick around. And like that's the main thing is like I think that more content creators really I want people to understand that, hey, you're allowed to do whatever you want to. You don't owe people anything. Mm-hmm. It's free entertainment. You know what I'm saying? Unless you promise something through like a Patreon or something like that, that's up to you. And that's something that I do not do. I do not promise nothing because I don't want there to be an expectation. But I wish that more content creators would take it easier on themselves and understand that like, yo, you don't owe people anything. You don't owe people your time or you don't even owe people your content, like if you want to stream. If you want to make YouTube videos, that's up to you. It should be your passion project. And if people want to follow along, they can, If people want to support it, they can, but there's never any pressure, like, and I think that right there is something that has been lost in translation a lot, especially with content creators as a whole, is they're like, oh, I got to get this video out. I got to do this. I got to do that. It's like, you don't have to do nothing. You don't got to do nothing. If you want to, like, if it's your, if it's your career, then of course you got to do it in order to make the money, right? And to be able to live, you have to do it. But it's a really weird thing. Parasocial relationships are crazy, is what I'm trying to say.
And it's a sticky subject too.
Yeah, it really is. But like my philosophy on this, like, I'm going to do what I want to do. And like, if people like it, so be it. If people don't like it, so be it. It's just, I want to have fun.
Yeah. I will probably give the floor to Jacob or Yoshiller if they want to tell their stories, but I do have kind of a similar topic that for me as an outsider looking in was a very interesting experience to have. But I will give the floor to either Jacob or Yoshiller to tell some of their stories.
I do have a quick story. It does have a happy ending. In fact, it ends with me meeting Junichi Masuda. So let me preface it with that.
Mm-hmm.
Who is the creator of, or one of the creators of Pokemon, for those that don't know. He's typically seen as the guy in charge these days. In 2014, there was the Pokemon World Championships, which took place in Washington, D.C. But alongside that, there was also a new symphony tour called Pokemon Symphonic Evolutions. Basically just a Pokemon Symphony that played music throughout the series, and it was really cool. And the way they promoted that event was by reaching out to various influencers and content creators. So they contacted people such as Chuggaaconroy and Maryland and a couple of others, and they actually invited them to go to the opening night of the Pokemon Symphonic Evolutions concert, which was in Washington, D.C. And I guess I was considered to be part of this promotion. I was not ultimately chosen because my views weren't as good or something, but I was seen as trustworthy enough, so I was given kind of like this honorary runner-up of, oh, well, if you fly yourself out, we'll give you a ticket type of deal. So I said, okay. But at this time, because it was 2014, like I believe I was 18 years old at the time, and I hadn't really gone to an event by myself before. So I really went to this event on a spontaneous decision, and I had to stay with two people that I had never really met before. I spoke with them once or twice just to kind of try to get to know them, but otherwise didn't really know them. I was kind of slapped with them because I didn't really have anywhere else to stay. But that's okay. So they picked me up from the airport, and for the sake of this conversation, it's two people. So there's a guy, we'll call him Red, and there's a girl, and we'll call him Green, just for the sake of the Pokemon theming. So we stay in a pretty nice hotel, actually. We're not staying at the main hotel where a lot of events are taking place. There's like this big hotel connected to a convention center. We weren't staying there. We were staying 2 or 3 blocks away. But all things considered, it was nice. So Red and Green, I don't think they're boyfriend and girlfriend, but they did share a bed. And I got what was basically an inflatable, just an inflatable thing. I don't want to say an inflatable mattress because it wasn't quite that. It was more like an inflatable pool toy that was big enough to be a mattress. But that's what I got. And I slept on that, and that was fine. And I guess as time went on throughout the course of this event, while I'm having a blast and getting to meet all these YouTubers and stuff, Red and Green are also trying to, well, primarily Red. Red's really trying to get in with the YouTubers. You know, he's kind of trying to hang out with everybody. Whatever. We would usually walk around in big groups anyway, so who cares if 1 or 2 extra people tag along, right? What gets a little weird is after the first night of the Pokemon Symphonic Evolutions concert, I was actually lucky enough to where my ticket put me in the same row as all of the other influencers and content creators. So I got to sit next to all of them, and I remember that we sat in row N. And we were making jokes about it, like, oh, are we in row N because there's a Pokemon character named N? Ha 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 ha. But that's where we sat. And so I sat, I think, right next to Maryland or Chuggaaconroy, or maybe Maryland had a front row seat. I don't remember, but it was nice. Red and Green had to sit somewhere else because they got their own tickets. And so what wound up happening either that night or the following night, Red was really desperate to hang out with these YouTubers and hang out with everybody. So he went and saw the show again, because all the influencers and content creators got to see the show again for free. And Green and I are back at the hotel room, And she's kind of freaking out because she doesn't know where Red is. And she's also 18 or 19, and Red's like 18 or 19. And we're kind of thinking, like, is he going to be able to get back to the hotel room by himself? You know, where is he? He's not answering any calls. And somehow we come to the conclusion, oh, you know what? Maybe he's just watching the concert. And she's like, he's watching the concert and he didn't tell either of us? Well, I'm going to go get him. And I said, well, you shouldn't walk the streets of Washington, D.C. at night by yourself. I'll go too. And we went.
That.
Yeah. And so we went. And we got to... Thankfully, the security staff let us inside. We didn't have tickets to see the show ourselves, so they were like, oh, you know, no ticket, no entry. But Chuggaaconroy or Maryland or some staff member vouched for us, and they're like, oh, no, they're with us, they're with us. And the security was like, are you sure? I'm like, yeah, come on in. And sure enough, Red was there trying to party with these other YouTubers, and Green goes up to Red and is like, what's the matter with you? You need to tell us where you are, we're a team. You know, we were worried sick about you, we tried calling you, you weren't responding, you weren't doing anything. But then we realized Red wasn't responding because he was trying to keep the moment to himself. Because Junichi Masuda was here, like just chatting with people in the lobby for like the past hour. And we took pictures and we actually have a group photo and everything. And it was a very nice event. And it was very cool to be able to meet Junichi Masuda. And I kind of pat myself on the back saying, well, if I wasn't concerned for this other girl's safety in Washington, D.C., I might not have been able to meet Junichi Masuda. So I get to have that little bragging right. But we got to meet him, and that was cool and all. But I guess as the event went on, Red kind of became a bit of a jerk. Like everyone else kind of got the wrong impression of him. And I'm thinking, well, great. You know, if everyone else is mad at him, I really don't want to be sharing a hotel room with him. And also... I guess he also wasn't showering throughout the duration of the event. So everyone kind of remembered him as the guy that reeked.
Fun.
So, goodness me.
So thankfully I didn't have to share the bed with him. I feel bad for Green. Because, you know, I showered and all that, and she did too. So we were fine. We were seen as perfectly normal people. But I can't help but feel that things were slightly tainted due to the fact that Red was really trying to get with these guys. And... I do really appreciate that this group photo that we took had Junichi Masuda and all these other creators in the same picture. But man, I have to keep reminding myself, on the one hand, we wouldn't have been there if it weren't for Red's stubbornness, arrogance, and, you know, self-loathing attitude of him trying to get with everybody, right?
Jesus.
But on the other hand... If, you know, like if he wasn't there, we wouldn't have been able to meet Masuda, but because he was there trying to get with everybody, we did get to meet him, and I kind of have to hold that now. And it's like, I got to meet him because of someone else's selfish attitude. But I personally got to meet him because I cared for someone else's safety. So there's that.
I'm kind of wondering if you should have called them Blue.
Maybe. It will make more sense to people there why I called him Red. And, you know, I don't really want to badmouth this guy. I know I just kind of said some insults back there. I don't want to badmouth him, but that's just how the story went. He made selfish decisions. He didn't even invite us or say where he was. And, you know, it's okay that I didn't get invited. I would have been a little bitter if it was like, you were hanging out with Junichi Masuda and all these creators and you didn't tell us till after the fact. Like, but, you know.
Yeah, I mean...
It worked out. And that's my story.
I mean, judgmental words are pretty tough to use in these situations, but I think ultimately, like, the truth is what it is. And unfortunately, like, you do have to live with that concept of, you know, this isn't the way that I wanted this particular point of my life to happen, but because the things happened the way they did, I was able to have it. So I think, like, I
mean, I spent the rest of the night kind of away from him, so it's not like the entire time I was there, I was like, this is stupid, I shouldn't even be here. No, it wasn't like that.
No.
It's looking at it in hindsight that's like, oh, you know what? If it weren't for selfish actions, this wouldn't have played out this way.
Yeah, exactly. So it's sort of like you kind of take the good with the bad, but as long as your experience at that point was good, then it's always nice to just keep that with you.
All things considered, that event is one of the most important events in my life, so I shouldn't be too mad. I feel more bad for Green than than anything else, but it's okay.
Yeah. Jacob, what you got?
That's an excellent question. Mine's going to pale in comparison to the rest of yours, but at Versus Expo, after all of the Expo-y stuff was done on the final night, a lot of the, I guess you could say the talent that was there doing the, like the running of the games and everything, was all like, yeah, let's go out and go get some dinner. And of course, being Chicago, there was a Fogo de Chão nearby. And they were like, yeah, let's go to that. And I don't know how I ended up with that group, but I was there and it just kind of happened. And so we called Fogo because it was kind of late and we weren't sure if they were going to be open because I think it ended on a Sunday. And we called and we're like, hey, we have a group of like, it was like 16 or so. Do you have room? And at this time of night, and they're like, no, we don't. And so as a group, we decided we'll just go anyway and see what happens. So we walked to Fogo de Chão and we went in there with a group of like 16 people and we're like, hey, we called and you said you didn't have room, but maybe you do. And they're like, fine. So we had Fogo de Chão. But that's not the weird part, I promise. I got to meet some interesting people at that dinner. It was a good dinner. And after we left, we were walking across this like, I don't even know what to call it. I guess it's like a mall, but not. It's like really tiny. It's got like a field in the middle, and there's like a bunch of buildings around this field. So it's like I don't know. It's like a circular miniature mall of some kind.
I kind of understand what you're saying.
I have the vision in my head. Yeah.
Yeah, and the middle field is like it's just really pretty grass, and I don't know who decided it, and I don't know why everyone went along with it, but someone was like, hey, why don't we just Naruto run across this entire field, all of us, at the same time?
Can't get all of us.
And so everyone just put their backpacks on the ground, and everyone got ready, someone grabbed a camera, and everyone just Naruto ran across this field. Except for, I think it was Tom Fox. He, like, crab danced sideways across with everybody. And so there's a video floating around somewhere of a bunch of people just Naruto running down this field. And then Tom Fox just like doing like this sideways crab walk thing as people are trying to Naruto run. And that scarred me for the rest of my life. So yeah, there you go.
I'm starting to realize that my stories aren't as good as everyone else's.
See, now that's how I've been feeling for the past hour and 7 minutes.
That story was the best one told so far.
Yeah.
Hey guys, Chicago deep dish pizza is kind of not great.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Wow.
Deep dish pizza.
You're starting conversations, my friend. You have the real talk going on right now. So thinking about fans and meetups like that, I had a very interesting experience at PAX East in 2020. It was actually the very last PAX East. And we were doing the Zelda Universe panel, and the panelists included myself, a couple of other ZU contributors, as well as a couple of major content creators. But we were walking out, and we were trying to figure out dinner. One of the things I really like to do after the ZU panel specifically is to go get dinner afterwards. And I've been to PAX enough times to know that there are a couple of places around, but for some reason, one of the restaurants was closed up entirely. I think Ubisoft took it over and made a little arcade out of it. So it's that little bar that's inside the hotel next to the convention center.
Oh yeah.
And the other place was was at full capacity. It was going to be a 2-hour wait. And I think Jules and Adriana were going to do a set with Insane in the Rain in like an hour. So we didn't have a lot of time. And none of the other places around the area were open. And I was just kind of like, this is weird. Like, I don't know my luck. I think it was either Thursday or Friday night. So it was very strange for those 2 nights for a place to not be available or open. And so ultimately what was going on was, after every convention panel, especially panels that contain different kind of content creators that a lot of people are there to see, you tend to have a lot of fans that want to talk to them and meet up with them. And that was going on to a degree. So we were just kind of like trying to figure out food. And what had happened was we were just like, I guess we just got to eat here. And apparently the cafeteria area that's in the convention center was still open. So we decided to go there. But what was going on at the same time was like, we were like, okay, we're going to go get dinner now. Like, say goodbye and let's go get dinner. So we go. And I'm turning around And I have myself, my girlfriend DM. We had a couple of the content creators who wanted to come with us to get dinner, and like 4 other dudes. And I don't know a single one of them. And neither does anybody else. So, and we're just kind of walking, and I'm like, okay, well, maybe they're just gonna like, we'll split up at some point, and we're just gonna go get food, and they're gonna go back to their rooms or go somewhere else. And they don't. We go to the cafeteria, and they're still here, and we're trying to find like a table for us. And a lot of them are there. A lot of, these 4 or 5 people that followed us there. My girlfriend specifically picked a chair next to one of them just to kind of like play point guard. But whenever she or anybody else for that matter tried to get up and either go get food or go get utensils or something like that, the fans would get up and start crowding the other different creators that were there at the table. And again, like, I think it's really troublesome to tell these stories because I don't want people to feel bad. Not necessarily, like, because I don't know what their whole idea is or what's going on with them, and I don't really know the barriers between the content creators themselves and their fans. But as an outsider, it kind of makes me feel like this is a very weird situation, and how do we, as either the content creators themselves or as like friends of them, like kind of navigate those waters? And it's very tough. And so it was just a really weird time. One of the things that was really bothersome was just like, it didn't feel like they could really eat. And it's sort of like, we left, right? We did the fan meetup after the panel. We're eating now. We're trying to eat. And it just seems like we had this one guy who was eating as fast as he could at across from me at the table so that he could like continue to talk. So after most of us have finished eating, we actually realized that a couple of our friends were also in the cafeteria, but just on the opposite side of the cafeteria. And so we kind of had to use them as a way out, I guess, to kind of get up and, finish the dinner and move on with our lives. And one of the things that happens is another couple of people try to go and eat at the table that we've cleaned up and we're leaving. And these are like, here, you guys can have our table. One of the fans looks at the guy about to sit down, this new group of people about to sit down, and he goes, and I'm not going to name the person who sat there, but this person sat at this table.
Huh.
And the dude was like, okay. Like,
it's not that serious.
It's like, do you know the event that just took place? And I'm sitting here going like, I know the event that took place. Do you know the event that took place? I had a very different experience. And I swear we talked about it for like my girlfriend and I were just kind of like, that was the weirdest thing that I think I've ever experienced. And again, it's sort of like I'm trying not to be judgmental. It's not really my place, but it has happened very frequently, especially with content creators of like their station, right? And it really made me think a lot about where are the borderlines, how are they being created, and is there anything that a lot of content creators can do to really like create those borders? I feel like Reese does a very good job of saying like, you have crossed the line, you need to stop. But I feel like she's also had to deal with a lot of stuff during her time.
You know what though?
Yeah.
I mean, everything you said is right. And I totally agree that there needs to be borders, but at the same time, I also kind of feel bad for some of the fans that do just want to be friends with these creators. Cause like, I got lucky, and I don't know about you guys, but I feel we're all kind of lucky to be able to hang out with the group of people that we do. I don't want to put words in your mouth, but at least in my case, I was very fortunate to be able to go to events and meet these people and be on good terms with them. But I can't help but feel that some people aren't so lucky, and all they want to do is like, I want to be friends with Chuggaaconroy, or I want to be friends with ProtonJon, or I want to be friends with Laughingboy, or 8-Bit Drummer, or Secret Agent Jacob. You know, like I can't help but feel like there are people like that, but they just don't know how to get their foot in the door, and they just come off as clingy or obnoxious. And I just don't know what the strategy is.
So there is, oh man. Okay. So this is going to come off as really mean. There is no strategy. We are human beings. You know what I'm saying? Like now I've talked to people, and I've actually had people tell me, you don't deserve to be friends with these people. It's like, what the frick does that even mean? Like, and that makes me angry because
people said that to you about your
I've had somebody tell me before that you do not deserve to be a part of TRG and friends. I would say TRG and friends. I've had somebody message me and tell me that. I've subsequently blocked them and everything because I don't give a frick what people say. I've been watching John and them for a long time, and yeah, whenever I was younger, I was like, oh, it'd be cool to hang out with these guys, right? But I've not once did I ever think whenever I was younger, it's like, how can I become friends with this guy? Like, that is a very strange thing to think. Now, once again, I'm not trying to be mean. And I understand wanting to be able to talk to your favorite creators. I understand wanting to, because I was that guy. Like, I was the fan. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. And if there is a strategy, here's what it is. Be yourself. You can tell people that you enjoy their content. You can, send them a DM, like whatever you want to do is cool. But whenever it comes down to like friendship or something like that, that is a natural thing that happens over time. That is something that cannot be forced. There is no strategy to become friends with somebody. Literally, you enjoy the same things, and it's a natural thing. I've had people donate to me on Cast and be like, hey, I can't wait to be friends with you because I've given you money. I'm not kidding.
Oh, yeah. I've seen that with other streamers too. So yeah, I can only imagine.
This is so awkward.
This is the parasocial relationship at work. This is I know everything about you, but you don't know me. I'm changing that. And whenever somebody tries to force a relationship on somebody, whether it be friendship or other, it always fails every single time. And my biggest piece of advice, as somebody who was a fan of the group that I am now a part of, do your own thing. If it coincides, if it crisscrosses with what other people are doing that you enjoy, cool. If it doesn't, cool. But just be yourself. That is the number one thing. I don't hang out with them because of the fact that I had some type of weird plan or something like that. I'm just hanging out with them because, like, hey, they're my friends, you know? Like, and it's really weird whenever I hear like stories and stuff like Yoshiller, you telling stories about the people that were like, dude, he sat at this table. I'm like, dude, this sucks, you know? like that's the thing. Like we all suck. Every single one of us suck. And like, we're all just people. And it's so strange, especially with like personalities nowadays, especially because in with the pandemic keeping everybody at home and whatnot, that parasocial relationship goes so far into people's minds, and we as humans do not have a way to really understand what our brains are trying to tell us with that. Like, we're not made for this. We're not made for a one-sided relationship. We are made to have like community, and we're made to be in front of people like face to face instead of somebody's on a screen saying, hey, I hope you had a great day. Oh, I hope you had a great day as well. That doesn't exactly work. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's not the same thing. But once again, whenever it comes down to like that whole thing, it actually like bothers me when people like whenever people are like, hey, how can I get into this group? It's like, I don't have any idea. I don't know what I did. I'm just glad that I made friends that I did, you know? Like, the only reason why I even hung out with them to begin with was because of the fact that I was friends with Jules. And Jules was like, hey, 8-Bit Drummer is a pretty good dude. You should have him come and play some drums for charity. And like, it was just an idea that was passed. And it's natural. You know, it was a natural thing. Like, I didn't plan to be a part of it. It was just it's just weird to think about. And that's that guy who said that what was it? The table guy. That was the I guess the spark to get me talking about this, because I'm just like, oh my God. As somebody who has had that happen to them, it is so freaking weird, dude.
Look, I get it. I totally get it. I just want to tell you where my head's at, because like I did get lucky. I'm very thankful, and I cherish these friendships and stuff. But I can't help but wonder, like, if I wasn't so lucky, how would I have gotten to this point? Like, I don't know.
And I'm not like downing anything that you were saying. It was the guy. It was that guy. I was just like, oh, that's so strange. You know, like that was the thing for me. And anybody who's ever made it in online content creation is lucky as frick. Let me tell you, because that's like the step that nobody wants to talk about as a content creator. It's like, oh yeah, because I have like a thing that I tell people whenever they ask, like, how do you get successful? Have fun, do it in moderation, and do it consistently. But there's a fourth step that we have no control over, period, is the luck step, the opportunity step, the being in a certain, like, and that's the most important thing about being consistent and stuff, is like, hey, you can't get these opportunities by not trying. You know what I'm saying? By not doing something. You have to just be doing your own thing. And sometimes those things will coincide with other people. And when it does, it's freaking awesome. Like, and that's the whole thing. Like with you, Yoshiller, it's like, if you weren't in those situations, you wouldn't have been able to meet these guys. And that's just you being yourself, you know?
You're right. And look, the reason I even got to meet Chuggaaconroy, and I don't encourage anyone else to ever do this because it's cringy as heck looking back at it now, but the reason I even got to do stuff with him was because I made a challenge video. I made a video called I Challenge You, Chuggaaconroy. I tried to do something in the same vein as the Nostalgia Critic calling out angry video game nerds. So it was obviously over the top and satirical. I wasn't actually mad, but I was like, Chuggaaconroy, you have copied my Pokemon team from my Pokemon Emerald walkthrough, and I want to see if your team can beat my team. And you know what? He messaged me and said, all right, let's do it. So I got lucky, right? But there might be other people who try to make other videos or other comments, like try to get Chuggaaconroy's or ProtonJon's or, you know, some other creator's attention, and they don't get as lucky. But you're right. Had I not made that video, none of this would have happened, right? Mm-hmm. But I did make the video, but then luck still had to get involved. Luck still had to send that video his way. So I don't know. I can't help but feel that it wasn't always me and my actions getting me to where I am, that it was more often than not luck.
Well,
and I think chime in a little bit, because I do understand quite a bit where Yoshiller's coming from in this sense, because he could have made that video and then nothing happened, right? I could have reached out to, like, when I talk about that convention story when I first met all four of them, and that could have gone completely differently. Like, I could have asked them, hey, do you want to do this interview thing? And they could have been like completely, no, I don't feel like it, whatever. And it could have been completely different. I felt really lucky that they wanted to do that. And even then, I guess, like, from my perspective, I do want to have a really good relationship to a friendship, if possible, with the people that I work with. But that's also just like, there are parts of me that has to wrestle with that idea, because I do have, and this is, honestly, I'll just go ahead and say it because I do talk a lot about this, but I do have mild to moderate social anxiety and mild depression. And a lot of it has to do with this idea that I have to do something perfectly right, or I want people to like me. And this was a very big test for me to understand this idea of not everything is going to go your way 100% of the time. I was very thankful and very lucky that it did, but I've also had plenty of rejections, and you just kind of have to get used to that. And even in that vein, I talked to them in 2015 about doing like an interview. I didn't even get to some of them until 2016, 2017. So even when they said, yeah, let's do it, it still took a year and a half to get it to go. So there was a lot of persistence in myself and confidence in myself that this was going to work, that I was able to make these interviews with Emil and Masay and Tim, and then eventually John, someday. So I can understand where Yoshiller's coming from, because it can be, there is a luck attribute to it. I do feel very lucky that I've had these opportunities to talk with y'all. At that same time, there is this level of, I guess it's trust. Like, I have to trust in myself that I'm doing okay. Like, I have to trust in myself that I am just being myself and that people will like me for who I am. And also trust that people will be able to tell me and communicate with me if I'm being too out of line, right? And work on that communication aspect to it. So there's a lot of work that goes into it, but there's also a lot of luck that goes into it as well.
Absolutely.
Well, to kind of bring the thing full circle, because we were talking about conventions, that's like the secret reason why I love conventions so much, is because they remind me, hey, people do like me. People do want to hang out with me. People are here at this event to like the same types of things or similar types of things that I do, and they're willing to hang out with me and discuss them with me. That's why I miss conventions so much. I mean, I love seeing everybody, and I love, having all these stories and stuff, but the reason I care more about a convention rather than just like a general group gathering is because it's a nice reminder that, like, hey, you might be one in a crowd, but you're still individually important. So, I never take these days for granted when I do have these stories. Like, oh yeah, I did get to do that. Oh yeah, that was fun. I'm looking forward to future conventions where I can tell future stories, but also so that I can reignite that spark that says, hey, you're important. You sure were lucky, but you sure are important too. So I don't know.
Exactly.
That's just where my head's at.
And I think all of the stories that we've had are literally just kind of like, we just kind of had an opportunity opened up to us through these conventions, and that's ultimately kind of what has brought us together to an extent. I think, again, going back to how lucky I've been, all three of you here this is probably the first time that I've had you on something for my channel, and at least in the case of Yoshiller and 8-Bit Drummer, this is probably the most we've ever talked. So this is almost basically like the first time we've ever hung out, really.
I guess so.
Mm-hmm.
Aside from like one or two tweet responses, you might be right.
I've seen you at conventions. There was one time we had the Completionist. That's actually a funny story. We had the Completionist at one of our ZU panels, and I remember him walking into the panel, and he was doing okay, but he was kind of just like really tired and tuckered out, and he hadn't had lunch. And my girlfriend wound up feeding him, because she was just like, I just have all these like little tangerines. And we just gave him all the tangerines that we had. And he just started eating throughout the rest of the night. And then he had to do that Scary Games panel right after. But I think that was one of the first times, because I think you were there with a couple other people. But I've seen you like in that group, in that little entourage, so to speak. But yeah, I've seen all of you. But I think this is like the first time we've really had a chance to talk. And then Jake and I spent an entire weekend together eating Zaxby's.
Well, it's been an honor to be on here. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Oh man, speaking of that Z-Youthon. Oh man, I can't remember if I mentioned this in the previous episode of this podcast, but Emil and I have had a very strange existent, non-existent relationship that started at Com Bravo 2019. And I can't remember if I told this story, but I'll tell it again just in case.
No, you haven't.
Okay, cool. So I went to Com Bravo, which is in Canada. It was my first time leaving the country, and I drove, which I will never do again because Canadian drivers are crazy. And I got to the hotel, and I'm checking in, and I look to my left, and there he is. He's also checking in. And I didn't actually recognize him because I just didn't. And one of the people that was with me was like, dude, that's him. And I'm like, who? I don't, what? And then he walked away, right? But like we like locked eyes for a second. And there was just like this, I don't know, this silent understanding of, I don't know who you are, you don't know who I am, but these people behind me are freaking out Bye. And so I went on with my day, right? And then the next morning, because I got there a day early, the next morning, I get up, go down to the hotel, and I'm like, man, I want something, but I don't want hotel food. And I asked some of the people I was with, and they're like, dude, you're in Canada, you got to have Tim Hortons. I'm like, okay. So I go to the nearest Tim Hortons, and I get in this line that's coming out of the building, which, okay. And who's in front of me directly? Emil. And I'm standing there, and again, I do not recognize him, and the people behind me are like, dude, it's the guy. I'm like, who? And they're like, dude, it's him. And I look, and he turns around, and we kind of just look at each other for a moment, and then he turns back around. And that was the end of that exchange. And I'm like, all right, that happened. And then I went to a throwing controllers panel that was in Com Bravo. And I believe he was there. And we didn't like lock eyes there or anything, but I was like, hey, there's that guy again. And I'm like, okay, well, that's the end of that. So after Com Bravo, it was like literally 48 hours after Com Bravo was the Z-Youthon. So I got on a plane, or no, I drove back from Canada and then got up like the next morning, got in my car, drove to an airport, got in a plane and headed to Z-Youthon. And I get there and I pass out for like 6 hours because I was very tired. And then I get up, I go and I sit at the kitchen, and then someone sits down and there he is again.
It sounds like a bad sitcom episode.
Right? I'm like, hi. He's like, hi. And then we both just sat there for like legitimately 5 minutes, not saying anything. And occasionally just look at each other. And then he goes and he does his segment for Z-Youthon, and I'm just sitting there at that table like, man, how did this happen? And then I'm like, well, that's never going to happen again. So a month and a half later, TwitchCon 2019 comes around, and that that brunch occurs, and there he is again. And I'm like, this needs to stop. This really needs to stop. Here he is again. Except now, instead of the people being behind me that are like people that I know being like, that's the guy. Now I'm that person, and I'm sitting around this table, and all these people are just like, who's that guy? And I'm like, hi.
You just like turn to Jared, and you're just like, dude, that's the guy.
That's the guy.
That's the guy.
It's just like, which one?
And then I just point, like dramatic point, not even like a subtle one, just a dramatic point right at Chugga's face. And be like, that's the guy.
That's the guy.
But that is literally my entire experience with Chuggaaconroy.
Just imagining like the two of you sitting at that kitchen table, because I'm envisioning that it's a tiny kitchen table.
Very.
And there's not enough room to eat. But you're just like sitting there at that table, and you're just kind of like, you know, holding. I'm imagining that scene from Emperor's New Groove where Kuzco and Yzma are sitting like across from each other, and they keep looking at the paper to the point where they can't see each other. Because if they could just see each other, then something would happen. But they're just kind of just like silently sitting and existing together in an entire room for like a minute and a half, and nothing's happening.
Dude, I love that movie so much.
That movie's been ruined for me forever because of something that happened in my chat like 2 months ago.
Oh, what happened?
So I'm trying to think of what it was that we were doing. But I had one of my moderators on, and he started talking about the Emperor's New Groove and like how it's like a social experiment or something like that. And he just keeps going, and chat is losing their minds, but he's not paying attention to chat or me. And so he keeps talking about the Emperor's New Groove, and it lasted for 30 minutes. He talked nonstop with no input from anyone else about the Emperor's New Groove. And I'm just dying on camera, trying not to interrupt him with my laughs, and chat is losing their minds. So now anytime anyone brings up the Emperor's New Groove, we just pick on him for it. So
it's a social experiment. Right.
I will have to bring it up in your chat next time I'm in there, so you have to just make fun of him.
I'm just gonna, every time I raid, it'll just be hashtag the poison. The poison tended to kill Kuzco. Kuzco's poison. Yeah, so I feel like that was a lot of ground to cover. We're about an hour and 30 minutes. Like, look at that. We got a lot of stuff to go. And I feel like a lot of that conversation was very important. I tend to kind of become this like bag of emotions sometimes when I do these again, because I'm just kind of like, I don't know why people want to hang out with me. But I'm again very thankful to have all of you here. I feel like I feel like, again, we probably still have more stories to share, but I think ultimately we just really miss going to these conventions, meeting up physically. I think with everything being virtual, it's very hard to keep in contact with everybody, even though it's so simple to do. But those moments, those weekends when we can go to these different areas and be in the same place at once and finally get to see each other in person is a really important aspect of these. That and the food, obviously. Had a lot of food conversation today, so I'm very happy about that. So we'll wrap it up for this episode. Thank you so much for being here, and let's get some socials. So where can we find you, Jacob?
You can find me at twitch.tv/secretagentjacob, and whenever I decide to get off my lazy ass and actually use other social medias, you can find me in those places too.
I miss you, buddy. On Twitter. I could just
I'm working on it. Okay,
else.
look, I fell asleep at like 6:30 this morning, but I at least remembered to set a tweet to go live at like 11:45 a.m. so that it looked like I'm a normal person with a normal sleep schedule, and then I woke up at like 4. I was like, oops.
That's good. I like that. Yoshiller, where can we find you and what are you up to?
I am known as Yoshiller on YouTube and Real Yoshiller on Twitter, because when you reach a certain point in popularity on the internet, people just take your username on whatever social media platform is available. So Real Yoshiller for Twitter. And then I also edit for a bunch of other YouTubers, so you might see my name pop up on some other random videos. And when conventions open up again, and they're safe, that's the important thing. When they're safe, you better believe I'll be there with my Yoshi hat on.
And Jared, where can we find you and what are you up to these days?
8-Bit Drummer on just about everything. And Monday, Tuesday, Friday, Saturday, we're doing the drum streams. And that's basically it.
Okay. Well, again, happy to have everyone on here. And until next time, we will see you later. Good night, everybody. This has been DialogBOX. Good night. Goodbye.